Have you ever wondered what happens when a lifetime of silenced pain, hidden rage, and suppressed humanity finally finds its voice? Imagine a woman who has been invisible, constrained, and dehumanized, standing at the edge of despair, holding in her hands the power to reveal truths that the world refuses to see. This is not just a story of crime, it is a story of the shadow within, of the unconscious rising, and of the invisible forces that shape human destiny. In the story of Clara, we witness not merely an act of vengeance, but the eruption of a shadow that has long been buried beneath layers of imposed obedience, fear, and humiliation. The shadow represents the hidden, often denied aspects of the human psyche, parts of ourselves that are suppressed because society or circumstance dictates that they must remain invisible. In Clara's life, every day spent under the yoke of enslavement accumulated psychic tension. Each command obeyed, each insult swallowed, each moment of forced servitude fed the growing weight of a shadow that demanded recognition. Within her psyche, the suppressed anger, the desire for justice, and the acknowledgement of suffering were like a coiled force, invisible to the household she served, but searingly alive within her own consciousness. It is this internal darkness, this unacknowledged aspect of the self, that can transform quietly, invisibly, until it finds a moment to surface, and in Clara's case, it erupted with devastating clarity. The shadow does not recognize moral boundaries as defined by the external world. It acts not from reason or conscious deliberation, but from a deep, instinctual awareness of imbalance, injustice, and the need for self-assertion. Clara, in this symbolic moment, becomes more than an individual acting against oppressors. She becomes the embodiment of all that is unspoken, unseen, and unacknowledged within the system that enslaved her. Her actions confront the conscious order of the plantation household with an undeniable force, a reflection of the darkness they have ignored in themselves. It is as if the psyche, long constrained by societal and moral strictures, chooses a path of expression so absolute and shocking that it cannot be ignored. The significance of the shadow lies in its duality. It is destructive, yet it also reveals truths about human nature and social structures. It reminds us that the psyche cannot be indefinitely restrained without consequence. In Clara, the shadow emerges as both a response to systemic oppression and as a profound psychological statement. When the hidden depths of suffering are ignored, the psyche will assert itself in ways that shatter illusions of control, morality, and civility. Her act becomes a mirror, reflecting the inner corruption, fear, and denial, not only in her oppressors, but also in the world that condones such hierarchies, forcing an encounter with the dark truths buried within the human condition. Clara's act of poisoning the plantation household cannot be understood merely as a crime of revenge. It is a profound assertion of agency in a life otherwise dominated by the will of others. In the world she inhabits, her choices have been stripped away, her existence reduced to obedience, servitude, and silent endurance. Yet within the depths of her psyche, a hidden current of power remains, an unacknowledged reservoir of intentionality that waits for a moment to express itself. The act of rebellion becomes symbolic, a psychic statement that transcends its immediate physical consequences. By choosing poison, by orchestrating the timing and manner of the household's destruction, Clara exerts control in a realm that the oppressors could not monitor, predict, or suppress. The rebellion manifests as a reclaiming of her own identity, a reassertion of the self in opposition to a system designed to erase individuality and humanity. This symbolic assertion carries multiple layers of meaning. On one level, it is an act of resistance against specific oppressors. On another, it is an expression of the universal human need to confront injustice and reclaim autonomy. The very method she selects, something subtle, hidden and psychologically calculated, reflects an inner wisdom about the nature of power. She understands that overt defiance would be quickly crushed, that the system cannot be confronted openly without annihilation. By working through hidden channels, she enacts a reversal of roles. The powerless becomes the orchestrator of fate, and the omnipotent masters become vulnerable to forces they never considered. The act thus carries the weight of psychic symbolism. It is not merely destruction, but a demonstration that even within extreme oppression, the human spirit can assert its will in ways that challenge the conscious order. Psychologically, this rebellion is not just external. It represents a confrontation between the conscious self and the suppressed instincts, desires, and truths that have been denied recognition. The act becomes a dialogue between what society deems acceptable and what the psyche knows is necessary for survival and assertion of selfhood. In this sense, the act of poisoning is ritualistic, a moment in which the oppressed psyche declares its presence, its complexity, and its refusal to remain invisible. It embodies the paradox of agency under extreme limitation. Even when every freedom is stripped away, the human spirit can find a path to assert itself, often in ways that are morally and socially shocking, but psychologically inevitable and symbolically rich. Clara's act of poisoning the Plantation household exposes not only her personal shadow, but also the collective darkness embedded within the family and the system they uphold. The household is not merely a physical space where individuals live. It is a microcosm of social, moral, and psychological hierarchies that dictate behavior, suppress empathy, and normalize cruelty. Every member of the household participates, knowingly or unknowingly, in a network of oppression that dehumanizes those who serve them. In this sense, Clara's act becomes a confrontation with the hidden corruption and moral blindness of those around her. It reveals that the darkness she embodies as an individual has its counterpart in the collective psyche of the oppressors. The poisoning of supper becomes a mirror reflecting the latent greed, entitlement, and indifference to suffering that permeates the household, exposing the moral rot beneath the veneer of civility. The psychological impact of this collective darkness is profound. While Clara's shadow emerges from prolonged subjugation, the household's shadow arises from the normalization of dominance, the refusal to acknowledge the humanity of those enslaved, and the suppression of conscience in favor of control and comfort. In such an environment, cruelty becomes habitual, empathy becomes compartmentalized, and moral awareness is dulled. Clara's act disrupts this equilibrium by bringing the hidden moral corruption to the surface, demonstrating that no system, no matter how rigid, can entirely contain the consequences of ignored injustice. The destruction she unleashes is symbolic of the inevitable reckoning that follows when a society or household turns a blind eye to the suffering it perpetuates. Moreover, the household itself embodies archetypal forces. It represents authority, order, and the socially sanctioned version of morality. Clara's action challenges these constructs, revealing that beneath the surface of order lies chaos, repression, and unacknowledged evil. Her rebellion forces a confrontation with the shadows of those who believe themselves upright, exposing that the true danger is not only in overt acts of defiance, but also in the moral failures that allow oppression to continue unchallenged. The poisoned supper thus becomes a symbolic act of illumination, casting light on hidden truths and compelling the conscious world to reckon with the darkness it cultivates, often without awareness of its consequences. The act of poisoning in Clara's story carries significance far beyond its immediate physical consequences. Poison, as a choice of instrument, embodies subtlety, invisibility, and the quiet yet irreversible unfolding of consequences. It is not an overt act of violence like a strike or a gunshot which demands attention and invites immediate confrontation. Instead, poison operates in the shadows, moving through the system undetected until the moment of revelation. In this sense, it becomes a metaphor for hidden knowledge, the truths that lie beneath the surface of consciousness, and the forces that shape events without being openly acknowledged. Clara, in using poison, channels the power of the unseen, the unspoken, and the suppressed. Her act demonstrates that the unconscious mind often exerts influence in ways that are indirect but profound, revealing truths that the conscious world may prefer to ignore. Psychologically, the use of poison mirrors the manner in which the psyche communicates its deepest needs and suppressed truths. Just as the poison travels silently through the system until it disrupts the household, unconscious truths and shadow elements remain hidden within individuals and societies until conditions allow them to emerge. The act itself is symbolic of insight and revelation. It is a transformative force that confronts the conscious mind with realities it cannot dismiss. The poison carries a dual character. It is destructive, yet it illuminates, forcing acknowledgement of what has been long ignored or denied. Clara's choice thus reflects an inner wisdom. The psyche often works in hidden ways, and the emergence of truth is rarely loud or immediate, but it is unstoppable and exacting in its consequences. On a deeper symbolic level, poison represents the intersection of intention and inevitability. It embodies the calculated, thoughtful emergence of suppressed knowledge and suppressed emotion into the realm of action. Clara's act becomes a ritualistic unveiling, demonstrating that the oppressed mind, though constrained externally, can manipulate subtle channels of reality to assert influence. Poison, therefore, is not merely a tool for harm, but a medium for expression, a manifestation of inner truths that demand recognition. Through it, the hidden order of injustice, suffering, and imbalance is brought to conscious awareness, revealing that the forces which shape human experience are not always visible, yet they are deeply powerful, precise, and transformative. Clara's act of poisoning the plantation household can be understood as the emergence of the archetype of the avenging shadow, a figure that exists deep within the human psyche, often hidden until circumstances bring it to the surface. This archetype is a symbolic representation of justice, retribution, and the confrontation with imbalance or wrongdoing that society refuses to acknowledge. In Clara's context, the shadow is not merely a personal manifestation of anger or resentment. It is a collective reflection of all the suppressed suffering, injustice, and dehumanization she has endured and witnessed. The avenging shadow is the embodiment of forces that operate outside conventional morality, acting in ways that may shock or disturb the conscious mind, yet reveal fundamental truths about human experience, oppression, and the consequences of ignoring the moral dimension of power. The archetype of the Avenger operates in a space where the usual rules of cause and effect, reward and punishment, and moral propriety are suspended. It is instinctive, precise, and unflinching in its mission, responding not merely to personal grievance, but to a larger, often unconscious, sense of imbalance. Clara's choice to target the entire household reflects the archetype's impartiality. It does not distinguish between individuals based on personal affection or animosity, but seeks to redress the larger system of injustice that has constrained her life. In this sense, her act is a symbolic confrontation with the forces that have maintained oppression, a psychic eruption that exposes the moral and ethical blind spots of those who wield power. The avenging shadow also embodies the duality of creation and destruction. While its actions are destructive, they carry the potential for profound revelation and transformation. By confronting the oppressors with the consequences of their cruelty, Clara's act forces a reckoning with truths that would otherwise remain hidden. The archetype functions as a mirror, reflecting the suppressed anger, guilt, and moral failure of the conscious world, and demonstrating that when the psyche is repressed or denied expression, it may manifest in extreme, sometimes violent, ways. This archetype is universal in human experience, emerging whenever injustice is systemic, voices are silenced, and suffering is ignored. Clara becomes its vessel, her act a symbolic eruption of what cannot be ignored, a force that challenges societal norms, confronts hidden truths, and reveals the consequences of allowing darkness to fester unacknowledged within individuals and communities. Clara's actions can be understood as the eruption of the unconscious mind, a force so powerful that it functions almost like fate itself, shaping events in ways that defy the conscious control of individuals. The unconscious in this context is not merely a repository of forgotten memories or unacknowledged desires. It is an active, dynamic force that moves through the psyche, gathering energy from suppressed emotions, unresolved trauma, and the moral contradictions of the environment. In Clara's life, years of oppression, dehumanization, and forced submission accumulated like an invisible reservoir of tension. The conscious mind may have appeared compliant, obedient, or powerless, but the unconscious was active, forming patterns, motives, and strategies that would eventually manifest in a decisive, transformative act. Her poisoning of the household becomes the expression of this immense, underlying psychic energy, demonstrating that the unconscious is not passive, but can assert itself with the inevitability and precision of fate. The unconscious acts according to principles that are not always logical or morally aligned with the conscious world. It is driven by a need for equilibrium, justice, and the acknowledgement of truths that have been ignored. In Clara's case, the unconscious forces her to act in a way that disrupts the artificial order imposed by the plantation, asserting the repressed truths of suffering, cruelty, and inequality. It is a force that cannot be negotiated with through reason or social convention. It moves in hidden channels, often subtly, until circumstances align for its eruption. The poisoning itself is a manifestation of this principle, a quiet, invisible act that carries irreversible consequences, demonstrating that what lies beneath the surface of the mind can shape the destiny of all involved. From a symbolic perspective, the unconscious as a force of fate illustrates the deep interconnectedness between human behavior and hidden psychic processes. It suggests that when systems of power ignore moral accountability, the suppressed elements of the psyche will inevitably emerge, often through individuals who embody its intensity. Clara's act becomes more than personal vengeance. It is the unconscious exerting its influence, revealing that every social order contains unseen currents capable of overturning conscious control. It is an unstoppable, inevitable energy, reminding us that what is repressed, denied, or silenced within the human soul will eventually demand recognition and expression, often in ways that shock, transform, or irrevocably alter the course of events.